Shocking, horrifying, it all applies when you start looking at these four doomed flights, Aaron. Take a look here. This is the track of the two flights which left Boston. They were headed to the West Coast. Ultimately, of course, they ended up right near where Aaron is, striking the World Trade Center, eventually leveling them. Those flight paths are somewhat more clear-cut when you consider the goals of the terrorists. The flight that has caused us great interest today is this one, United Airlines Flight 93, which left from Newark Airport, made it as far as Cleveland, and did a 180-degree turn and seemed to be heading in toward the Baltimore-Washington area. Unclear what the target was, but the question that has been on our minds all day long is, why did this plane crash here? Was there perhaps some sort of struggle inside the cockpit of that particular aircraft? And we do know more about that now. But first, let me tell you a little bit about some of the other flights and what was going on board. Nothing seemed amiss when American Airlines Flight 11 left the runway in Boston Tuesday morning. The 767-200 was about half full, toting 81 passengers, a cockpit crew of 2, and 9 flight attendants to the opposite coast. The captain likely planned for a 5-hour flight, so there was roughly 8,500 gallons of jet fuel in its 3 tanks. FAA radars tracked the airliner as it followed the flight plan. But then, about 20 minutes into the flight, somewhere over upstate New York, it turned sharply to the south. Flight 11 was hijacked, apparently by knife-wielding men. Airline pilots are trained to handle such situations by keeping calm, complying with requests, and, if possible, dialing in an emergency 4-digit code on a device called a transponder. It transmits crucial flight data to air traffic controllers. The action takes seconds, but it appears no such code was entered. But in the cabin, a frantic flight attendant managed to use a phone to call American Airlines Command Center in Dallas. She reported the trouble, and according to the Christian Science Monitor, a pilot apparently keyed the microphone, transmitting a cockpit conversation. The hijackers could be heard saying, "We have more planes, we have more planes." Radio transmissions like this would have been recorded on the ground by the FAA.
The police have identified 5 suspects that they believe were involved with this terrorist act, and 2 of whom may be brothers, apparently, reportedly. 2 of whom, 2 others, may have flown in from Portland and originated in Canada.
About 5 minutes before Flight 11 started heading south, another 767, United Flight 175, left Boston, also for Los Angeles, 65 souls aboard. 15 minutes after becoming airborne, it veered off course. One passenger made 2 calls to his father. In one exchange, he said a flight attendant was stabbed. In the second call, he told his dad the plane was going down.
They knew not to carry guns on the airplane if they fired off a bullet. I mean, they could have had explosive decompression on the aircraft. They knew what they were doing, and they knew what their mission was, obviously.
We know what happened next. The 767 struck and ultimately leveled the World Trade Center's twin towers.
I know pilots. No, if you're going to die, you're not going to fly in a World Trade Center to do it. Yeah, there would be a struggle, major struggle.
Which brings us to the story of Jeremy Glick. Jeremy Glick was a passenger on board United Airlines Flight 93. Newark to Los Angeles was the intended destination. According to his family, he made a phone call after the plane became commandeered somewhere around here in the Cleveland area. He asked them to confirm reports that other passengers had heard from talking to their family members that, in fact, a plane had already crashed into the World Trade Center here in the New York area. When that was confirmed by his family, he dropped the phone for some time, came back to report to his family that the male passengers on board United Airlines Flight 93 had voted to attack the hijackers. Dropped the phone again, and the rest we can only surmise. But this flight did not make it to what appeared to be its intended target, the Washington, D.C. area. If you're looking for heroes, the passengers on board that plane, obviously now perished, would be them. Aaron?